Hello students, I'm Anita Abraham, Associate Professor of English. Welcome to the English classroom. This is video number 1 dated 16/7/2020. Today's English lesson is from the General English curriculum prescribed by Osmania University for semester 1 for BA, BCom, BSc and BBA students. The lesson that we are doing today is from Unit 2 titled Soft Skills, Non-Verbal Communication and Body Language. If you like my video, please subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get notified for subsequent videos. Let's get started. What is non-verbal communication and why is non-verbal communication important? Non-verbal communication and verbal communication play an important role in how people interact with each other. But what you must remember is that verbal communication, that is what is spoken orally, is only 35% of the communication that we do with each other. 65% is non-verbal communication in our daily life. Non-verbal communication also has cultural meaning. So in the 21st century, it is very important that we understand what are the signals and what are the cultural construct of these signals that are being given by people around us. And as Peter F. Drucker said, the most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. So not what is spoken, but what is not spoken is very, very important. When we are talking about non-verbal communication, there are two concepts that are very, very important. One is meta-communication and the other is paralanguage. Non-verbal communication is anything other than words that communicates a message. The way we stand, the way we walk, the way we shrug our shoulders, the clothes we wear, the car we drive, the office or the college that we go to, all communicate ideas to others. All these things, which when taken into account, we end up interpreting what someone is saying and other than the actual word, and that is called meta communication. Meta in Greek means beyond or in addition to, and hence meta communication is something in addition to communication. So apart from the verbal or the oral communication, there is another level of communication that is happening, okay? Meta, beyond, in addition, which is the non-verbal communication, and we need to take that into consideration because that's 65% of the communication. However, if you get an additional communication apart from the meta communication, you get another kind of communication which is from the inflection of his or her voice, the person who is talking to you. That is, inflection would here mean the tone of the voice when he or she is communicating with you. That is called paralanguage. And frequently, paralanguage is telling you or conveying what is opposite of the words that have been spoken. And when this happens, we usually pick up the meaning of the paralanguage rather than the language being used. To give you a simple example, for example, you are my student and you walk 15 minutes late into my class and I greet you with, "Great, welcome to the class." It is an example of paralanguage. I'm not appreciating you and welcoming you and complimenting you for coming 15 minutes late to my class. I'm being sarcastic and warning you and chiding you for walking in 15 minutes late into my class. So if you are aware of these non-verbal clues, then you will not pick up "Great, welcome to the class." You will immediately pick up the fact that ma'am is being sarcastic. So this is very, very important for us to develop how to pick up these non-verbal cues because it will make us effective communicators. Non-verbal channels are the ones which seem to be least aware of in ourselves, but most aware in others. Okay, so we are very quick to pick up non-verbal signals from others. Okay, but not what kind of non-verbal signals are we transmitting. So we need to be conscious of that too. So let's take a look at the non-verbal language that are important. The one would be silence, the next would be the non-verbal language of time, and of course the most important, the non-verbal language of body, that the body language conveys. Okay, let's talk about the language of silence. For example, if you think you have made a brilliant speech or a very good presentation, and then you ask your what do you call audience or your classmates to ask any questions, but then there is pin drop silence in the class or in the hall, what would you feel? Immediately you get the non-verbal signal that communication had broken down somewhere. Of course, silence is golden, but then is it always golden? Okay, so you need to think about these things. And a long period of silence may be golden for some people in certain circumstances, but at times it can be embarrassing and it can be rude. For example, I ask you a question, so did you understand? Either I get a yes or a no. If I don't get anything, it could convey boredom, rejection, disagreement, total satisfaction. It is very ambiguous, and I don't get anything from that kind of non-verbal cue that you are transmitting. At times silence can be an effective technique in encouraging feedback or a real two-way communication, but silence is a powerful tool of communication, and it must be used very, very skillfully. Okay, so you should know when you need to be silent and when you need to be verbal also. Okay, now moving on to the language of time. It is easy to assume that we all experience time as much in the same way. An hour is, after all, an hour. Okay, 11 o'clock is 11 o'clock for me and 11 o'clock for you. Yet, time is experienced differently by different people, different nationalities, societies, and culture. We are all aware there's a Christian calendar, there's a Muslim calendar, there's a Hindu calendar. So these are different ways in which time is perceived. And different people also attach different values to time. For example, I could say 1 minute, never, as soon as possible. Let's call it a day. Okay, so what does it mean? 1 minute can be half an hour. Okay, do you understand this? These kind of time can have different connotations for different people. For some, 9 a.m. is sharp 9 a.m., while for others it could be 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. or even later. That's why we have this very famous term, Indian Standard Time. That is, we never, as Indians, never keep time. Okay, time is also used to show eagerness, interest, enthusiasm, attitude, and seriousness. So that's why when we are doing interview skills, and when we are preparing, when we have sessions on time management, we tell students to be early, we tell students to be in time, because being in time is a non-verbal cue to show your eagerness, your interest, your enthusiasm, attitude, and seriousness. So if you need to convey this non-verbally, you need to be in time. Moving on to body language or kinesis, this is very, very important. A lot of people say a favorite sport of many people is people watching, or as Desmond Morris calls it in his very famous book, if you have time, please read it. It's called man watching. That is, you're observing others and trying to pick up what a person is thinking, what is the person's background, all from just observing body language. What you do when you are waiting in a railway platform, or you're alone, or busy at a doctor's clinic, the body language conveying what the person is going through, what the person is thinking, what could be, the the mystery behind that person. You really don't know the person, but the body language is conveying certain things. Possibly you can't hear, so you actually listening, hearing, reading their body language. Please make a note of that. Okay, so you really don't know, or you can't hear or listen to what they are saying, but then you are listening, reading, hearing their body language. So through body language, you're trying to perceive something about the person. And you must always remember the statistics that I gave you in the beginning: 35% verbal communication and 65% non-verbal communication. Whether we are aware of it or not, each of us spend a lot of time decoding body language, or the term that is used is kinesis. The non-verbal communication often come through louder than words that are actually being spoken, and frequently means by which we reveal the emotional side of our communication. So I may say something orally or verbally, but my body language can communicate something very, very, different. For example, I can say I'm fine, but then, I'm clenching my fist, I'm gulping, and that could convey that there is something wrong. The non-verbal messages of the speaker tends to reveal the degree of presence of sincerity, conviction, honesty, ability, knowledge they reveal to a lot about the speaker and their attitude, feeling about the message they are transmitting. So look how important these non-verbal messages are, where it reveals the sincerity, conviction, honesty, ability, knowledge of the speaker, and it also reveals the attitudes and feelings about the message they are transmitting. The body language of the receiver also reveals a lot about them and their feelings. So it's a two-way process. So there is the speaker and the receiver, and both their body language, the body language will give us clues on the communication that is taking place. But more important, it frequently tells the speaker the extent to which their audience is accepting or not accepting the message. For example, when you're speaking to somebody, they are not replying back to you or anything. Their body language will convey how they are taking what you are saying, how well they are receiving or how they are not receiving the message that you are trying to convey. In other words, body language provides instant feedback to the speaker and tells them how they are doing. Okay, for example, as teachers, we get that feedback quite often in class when we are teaching, and we are looking at the students, and we immediately know whether what we are saying is being transmitted to the students. Similarly, your body language, the student's body language, conveys to the teacher whether they are understanding, comprehending what is happening in the class. So it's an instant feedback, and it's a non-verbal communication, and we need to immediately rectify using the non-verbal cues, signals that we are getting, and make sure that communication doesn't break down. It is needless to state that to be a good body language reader, you have to sharpen your powers by observation. Okay, so you need to observe your own body language and body language of others, so that you can improve your body language, send positive signals to others. Of course, then there is this language of space. Before we try to understand the movement of the various body parts, body language is important. We should first examine our attitude to space in which that movement is taking place. Just like silence and time speak, so does space. So we talked about, non-verbal cue from silence. We spoke about non-verbal cues from time. Now space also conveys, non-verbal cues. Not only does non-verbal not only does space affect the way we communicate, we use space to communicate. Each of us have our own space, and which we are comfortable with. And I think all of you all know the three bears story, that is Goldilocks and the three bears. Goldilocks came into the house in the middle of the forest, and she slept on the beds of the three bears. Then she sat on the chairs of the three bears. So when the bears came back, they immediately knew somebody had sat on their chair, somebody had slept on their bed. That is because everybody has their personal space, and you cannot intrude into each other's space, because that's again a non-verbal barrier that you need to take care of, and you cannot break those barriers. For example, there is the boss's room chair, there is mom and dad's bedroom, there's the juniors hostel, PG class, ladies line, members enclosure. These are space, and you cannot enter into these space if you don't belong there. So where you don't belong, you should not go. Okay. And personal space is very, very important. And because we are living in a global scenario, it is very important to understand intimate distance, personal distance, social distance, public distance. I think all of us in COVID times have learned about distancing, social distancing we have learned. Okay. But this is not only in COVID times. In normal times also, we need to know we cannot step into each other's space. And this is a problem that we Indians have, because we live in joint families. We have close interpersonal relationship among relatives and friends. So we tend to cross boundaries and don't allow personal space, intimate space, because it is part of our culture. But then we must remember that it is not acceptable in all cultures, and we must always maintain the distance. We cannot step into other people's space. So if you are dealing with, for example, Americans, you have to be very careful about the distance you maintain from them, or whether it is European or Middle East. But you don't have that kind of problem with South Asian cultures, because most of our cultures are similar. So it's important to read up on how each culture, each society perceives their non-verbal signals, and practice accordingly. Similarly, touch. Touch is probably the earliest form of communication, and it still is. However, societies, cultures, surroundings, upbringings bring in inhibition. For example, Indians are not very comfortable with touch. Yes or no? You don't go hug, you don't kiss. But then the Westerners, they kiss, hug, handshakes. All that is very, very common. Again, it's a cultural thing, and we need to be very, very aware of the cultural construct, the cultural connotation behind nonverbal signals. Moving on to orientation and posture. We can influence communication and signal our attitude not only by proximity, closeness to others, but also by the position and posture we adopt. So that's why we always say very good posture, head up, chin up, straight back, stand straight, don't slouch. These are very, very important things, because these your posture and your orientation, your body language conveys a whole lot of signals. And these are some of the things that that the body language conveys. So you should be very clear about what you are doing. For example, head nods. We shake our heads up and down or side to side. That's a very Indian thing. In some instance, it's done at different speeds. Okay, sometimes slowly, sometimes fast. Okay, there are many reasons and implication. It could be yes, no, go on, I want to intervene and speak. It means encouragement, it means discouragement, agreement, and so on. So we need to know what these mean, and it can mean different things in different cultures. Similarly, facial expressions also. Of all body movements, facial expressions are the one that we are most able to control. Okay, and a person's face provides a commentary on the reaction: surprise, disbelief, agreement, disappointment, anger. Face is a mirror. It's a mirror. It pictures your emotion. At the time, there is a mismatch between the verbal words and the facial expression. So we can be good actors and actresses. The verbal or the oral communication says something, and then the non-verbal communication through the facial expression can convey something very, very different. If this is combined with body movements, it becomes much more complicated. Okay, so facial expression, body movements, and then verbal communication. It can give mixed messages. So it's very important that we consciously try to fine tune our non-verbal communication. Similarly, eye movements also. In contrast to other body signal, movements of the eyes have an effect that's quite out of proportion to the physical effort exerted. So eyes, very nice, and on the face, but then the expression in the eyes can communicate so much more. Okay, some eye movements are quite uncontrollable, but nevertheless send out strong messages which we receive almost without being aware of them. Okay, and they perform many functions. Okay, when two people, for example, are engaged in a conversation and they look at each other in the eye intermittently, okay, that signals something else. Usually each other look between 25 to 75% of the time. The glances vary in length but tend to look twice as much while we are listening as while we are talking. So do you see that? So when two people are talking, this is what happens. Okay, and this could convey interest, disinterest, lack of interest, all those kind of things. The amount of look is related to the amount of kind of interest. If we are interested in someone or what they are saying, we look at them, whereas if we tend to direct our gaze away, then we are disinterested. So if I'm interested in what you're saying, then I will look at you constantly, intermittently. But if I'm not interested, I'll just turn away and do something else. At times, long periods of looking may indicate a desire for intimacy. That's why we say don't stare, because staring at people can make others uncomfortable, because it can be construed as a desire for intimacy. So you don't stare at people. It is rude, it is offensive. When a general glance in a train or a lift or a public place becomes a second glance, then a stare, it means is more than just a passing interest. That's again another important thing. Of course, we are human being. You look at somebody, you just look once and then look away. But if you look again, then it is just not a passing glance. You are showing more than it's more than passing glance. You're showing some interest, and so be very careful. Don't do that with strangers. Okay, and to gain feedback also, people look at each other. You can get information, gauge reactions, get their level of interest by the eye contact. Believability, truth, confidence, and such things also get justified with eye movements. To synchronize speech with eye movements like head nods, grunts are also used to synchronize speech. We need to see how the other person is reacting, thereby continue with modifications if necessary. So the speaker and the receiver need to both synchronize not only the verbal communication that's happening, but also the non-verbal communication that is happening. Okay. I hope you all understood how important non-verbal communication is, because it is sending out a totally different narrative if you are not careful. So do practice your body language, your non-verbal communication carefully. And I'm going to concentrate on body language because as young students, you are, and as young adults, you are not comfortable with your body, and you have some fossilization, some gestures, some movements, some habits that you can get rid of, because it could convey wrong it could send or convey wrong meanings and signals. So moving on to body language. Body language is the communication of personal feelings, emotions, attitudes, thoughts through body movements, gestures, postures, facial expressions, walking styles, positions, and distance, either consciously or voluntarily. It is not only your tongue which communicates, but also you speak with your body movements and gestures. So this is, non-verbal communication and what the body is trying to convey. What is the main aspects of body language? Gestures. Okay, a gesture is the verbal or non-verbal body movement used to express or emphasize an idea, an emotion, or state of mind. So when people are talking, they tend to use their hands, okay, to make a point, to convey the seriousness of a point that they are making. So gestures are important bodily clues that you can pick up to gauge what the speaker is trying to say. Similarly, for the receiver, body movements include head, eyes, eyebrows, lips, neck, shoulders, fingers, and so on. So every part of your body can convey a signal, a non-verbal signal, and that is speaking to the speaker or the group of speakers. One can distinguish four main kinds of gesticulation: emblem, illustrators, regular, self-touching. Okay, so moving on. Behavior. What is behavior? It refers simply to everything we do which is overt and observable. It is important because it is observable to others. What is our behavior? Behavior is what others can see. What is emotion? Emotion refers to states such as happiness, depression, anxiety, mood swings, okay, pleasure, displeasure, excitement, drowsiness, and the emotional cue comes from facial expression, body movements, and also the tone of voice is also indicative of emotion. Now look at the face. The face is the most significant and most photographed part of human body. Photographed in the sense people can see it. It mirrors your expressions. The flashes of facial signals are generally spontaneous reactions which a person finds difficult to hide. So you like something, your face brights up. If you don't like something, unconsciously it gets conveyed. Okay. What are some of the general characteristics? Facial expressions are highly flexible and changeable. The face can encode a variety of communicative and informative messages. So you have to be very, very careful of what your face is trying to convey. For example, raising your eyebrows can express astonishment. When we frown, it can be displeasure or confusion. By raised eyebrows, you can also convey envy or disbelief. So do you see all the things that, even without saying these things, your body language is conveying these things. Emotions also. The face can indicate a wide range of emotions: happiness, joy, fear, annoyance, surprise, anger, sadness. When you're shocked, your mouth just opens up. Blushing is another facial phenomenon that expresses emotion. Somebody pays you a compliment. A shy person becomes red in the face when attention is focused on the person. So these are all non-verbal clues that are communicating with people around you. Again, smiling, frowning are two major facial expressions. A genuine smile means I appreciate you, I accept your ideas. A frown can mean I find you puzzling, I'm confused, I'm not with you. It can convey a lot of things. Laughter. Laughter is composed of a broad range of gestures and sound. Okay, when you laugh throatily, ha ha ha, it's genuine laughter. Then when you say he, it's a mocking laughter. You're making fun of others. Okay, then you giggle he kind of thing. It's a secret giggle. You're making fun of somebody. Again, you say ho 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 kind of laughter, then it communicates surprise. Okay, so even laughter, which is a non-verbal signal, and it without saying that you are surprised, or you're mocking somebody, or you are secretly giggling, it conveys, okay, a whole lot of emotion. Similarly with head gestures, which we said earlier also, the head nod. Okay, the nodding of the head, and we Indians are great ones for nodding our head. It excuse me, a nod depicts a positive signal. A head shake signifies no or a negative gesture. For example, if I say this, then it is a yes. If it is this, it's a no. In our culture, Indian culture, it can mean different things in different cultures. So it's very important to make a culture study of non-verbal communication too. Head nod shows continuing attention. So when you're listening to somebody and you're nodding your head, it shows that you are being attentive. It depicts that what is happening to us emotionally. And I mean, this is a big joke. When your head is tilted to either the left or the right, it shows that you're listening attentively, to someone. But then this is something that we tell our students, that you must tilt your head a little to show, during an interview or during group discussion, to convey that you are paying attention, that you are interested in what is happening. But students tend to overdo it, and they just tilt their head too much. Tilting their head is just it's like a 1 degree tilt or a 2 degree tilt. It is not like this or like that, as if you have broken your neck. So you have to be very, very careful. Non-verbal cues, non-verbal gestures are comes with practice, and you must be very careful about what you are doing. Now, moving on, the eyebrows. What does the eyebrow does? People lower or knit their eyebrows when they show disagreement or displeasure. Frown when in displeasure. So when you are bringing your eyebrows together, it means disagreement, it means displeasure, it also means you did not understand something. So even the eyebrows convey so many things. Mouth also conveying so many things. When raised, the mouth communicates positive feeling, okay, happiness, optimism. If you keep your mouth straight, then it is conceals emotion. And when it is turned down, drooping, then it is sadness, confusion, and what you call dissatisfaction. Now coming back to the lips, when one does not utter words, lips can be eloquent, because silent lips express a wide range of emotion, from smile to frown. Okay, so even when you're not talking, your lips can convey so much of signals and cues. Your smile conveys so much. The lips can be in a frowning position. Bringing it close together can convey that you are not happy. Similarly, the throat. Okay, when the Adam's apple, the Adam's apple is not very visible in women, but in men, when the Adam's apple jumps unconsciously, it signals anxiety, embarrassment, and stress, and that is very, very noticeable in men. It also happens in women. When we are gulping, it conveys the same thing. Now moving on to the eyes. The eyes can be steely. Steely meaning no expression, expressionless, knowing, mocking, piercing, shifting. Look at all the things that the eyes can do. They can have a level of burning glance, that is, you're staring at something or somebody. It can be a cold glance, you conveying that you're unhappy, you are you are not liking something, okay? Your dislike you can convey, and you can also convey a hurt glance if somebody has upset you. And again, can be wise, knowing, inviting. These are all the kind of emotions that can be conveyed through the eyes: scary, disinterested, and so on, okay? And the pupil of the eyes dilate, it seems, when a person is interested. That is, you're showing a lot of interest in what's happening, and your pupils dilate. And we gaze in order to perceive the expression of others. So when I'm looking at you, when you're communicating with me, and my eyes are it's not like a rude stare. It is a very comfortable gaze to perceive both the verbal communication that's happening and the non-verbal communication, because I'm interested, genuinely interested in what you're trying to communicate. And if you want attention from others, you just look straight into their eyes, okay? Ways of looking also is very important. We discussed that earlier also. There is a sidelong glance that is referred to as a stolen look. That is, you just look like that. It's a sideways glance. Then there is a blank stare, which is one of boredom. So if your lecture is boring, then you are, it's a dull look. You are not there, and teachers know this kind of blank stare. Then there is the sparkling eyes. That is an attribute to those who have magnetic personality. The eyes convey, so much. If you have a sparkling bright eyes, and it just lights up the face, and it shows that you have a very interesting, vibrant personality. Now, another thing, glasses. If you're wearing spectacles, the non-verbal cues come from how you use your spectacles. Peering over the glass, that is, you have your spectacles and then you're looking over it, conveys that you are being judgmental or critical. Dark glasses are worn by those who want to conceal their genuine feelings. So you see how even using certain things also convey non-verbal signals. The hands, very, very important. The human hands is a restless organ, in the sense you don't know what to do with it, and so you have to be very careful with what you're going to do with your hands, okay? If the hand is limp, it's limp, then it shows boredom. And if a person is jittery or nervous, then they keep fidgeting with their hands. You have people biting their fingers, they keep playing with their hands. Then clenched fists often show frustration. And then, of course, when you're happy, or when you're wanting to express an emotion, unconsciously you start clapping. So these are emotions that the hands convey. Now, the very important thing which we always tell our students is, when the arms are crossed like this, it's a barrier. That is, you are perceiving the others as a threat. You are closed, and you are not open to what do you call suggestions or whatever is coming from the other side. So it is something that we don't encourage. But then in our Indian context, folding hands like this, crossed arms across the chest, is considered a very show of respect for elders. But then we must teach our students that when we are now in the 21st century and in a global scenario, certain gestures have certain meaning in the global context. Of course, this means that in our Indian context, that the younger generation is being respectful to the older generation. We have many of our students standing like this in front of us, but we need to tell them that this also has another meaning, and they should be conscious where they are using it. Arms folded with fingers tucked in the armpit and thumb sticking out. This is when a subordinate faces a superior whom he considers equal. Okay, these are all gestures. Make sure that you understand what your gestures mean. Arms behind the back is resorted by those who are experiencing an inner conflict. So if you put your hands behind the back, your arms behind your back, and then you're walking, pacing up and down, it means you are disturbed. There is a conflict in you, and you're trying to get over it. And then neck stroking. Some people neck stroke, and that, it seems, is a signal of suspicion. So see, we may be doing these things unconsciously. It's there because certain habits we just pick up and we don't really know what the meaning is. So we need to understand what it means, and then we need to if it's good, retain it. If it is not okay, then you need to get rid of it. Now look at the styles of handshake. Palm thrust down. Okay, so if your palm is down thrust, then it signifies dominance or arrogance. Palm up position shows this way. Palm up position shows submission to the giver. The glove handshake is the political handshake. This is what you do with people who you are familiar with. That is, you clasp both the hands together. Okay, with both your hands you clasp it. The other person's hand is in between your hands. Okay, now legs also, how you use your legs also convey a lot of meaning. For example, crossed legs signify negativity. Foot lock, that is, you're locking your foot. Okay, especially it is done by timid women and shy women. The ankle lock signifies, when you lock it at the ankle, then it conveys that you're holding back strong feelings, attitudes and emotions. And when you sit at the edge of a chair, it means you're ready to compromise, accept, agree. Okay, so you are when you sit at the edge of your chair. Rocking or swinging in a chair indicates a person is in full control of the situation. So we need to be very, very careful about how we are sitting, standing, handshakes, our eyes. So we need to practice, and I would always advise that you practice it. You look at what your gestures are, and then practice. Try to get rid of the bad gestures, postures, and adopt consciously gestures and body language that would convey positivity and confidence, because that is what people judge you when they see you. They may not even hear you speak, but then before they hear you speak, they can see you, and your non-verbal communication conveys to them how confident, how positive you are. So that's very important, that we consciously create a good non-verbal aura around us, for us. Now look at the walking gestures. There is arm swinging, hand in the pocket, hand on the hips. There is meditative walk when you're thinking. Then there is the confidence walk. There is the leadership walk. There is pacing. There is swagger. So you need to, decide what are you doing, and then, decide what is appropriate for you. All of y'all are 18 to 21-year-old young boys and girls, and you need to develop a body language. You need to develop your non-verbal skills suited for your context as young adults in college, who will be going on for higher education and also for job. What is required at the workplace. Now just let's quickly look at this. And if, for example, we are in the elevator, okay, in the lift. So there is a lift etiquette, just like there is, we will be doing all those things. There is telephone etiquette, there is email etiquette, and similarly there is elevator etiquette. And I put elevator etiquette in body language because, and non-verbal communication, because in the lift or in the elevator, it's usually people who don't know each other. So it's a group of people who don't know each other when they get into the lift, and what is the kind of body language that you should convey. If one or two people enter the elevator, they should lean against the wall of the elevator. If there are 3 or 4 people, in the elevator, they should occupy a corner. You know those corners. If there are 5 or 6 people in the elevator, all should turn to face the door. Okay, so you can't have one turning back, one to the corner. You know these are all non-verbal communication. This is to show that you know what you're doing. You're confident. You're positive, and then hands and purses and briefcase, hands down in front of the body in the fig leaf position. Fig leaf position is right in front of you on your belly. You hold it in your near your belly, stomach. Okay, so your hands, and if you have a purse or you have a briefcase, you hang it down in front of your body, and it's the fig leaf position. That means right at your stomach, so that it's hanging right in front. So that is the non-verbal communication when you are in an elevator. And when you're in an elevator, you must not touch each other in any way unless the elevator is crowded, and then only at the shoulder or lightly against the upper arm. Okay? And have a tendency to look upward at the illuminated floor indicator. Do you see non-verbal communication? I took this example of an elevator because this is something that none of us are familiar with, and I wanted to give you an example of how we we can practice non-verbal communication. And I gave you the example of the lift. So if the lift is crowded, the elevator is crowded, you should not touch each other. And if it's very crowded, it is only shoulder to shoulder, a gentle touch, or the upper arm, this part. Okay, you cannot and that also a light touch. And then what should you do? You should be looking at the panel, okay, where the floor indicators are coming, not looking here and there and anywhere else. So that is the etiquette. That is the non-verbal communication you would do in a closed setting like an elevator. So I hope you found this video useful, students. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you found this video useful, and please subscribe to the video by pressing the bell icon so that you get notification of subsequent videos. Thank you so much, and stay safe.